come up on stage. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Eliot Mack with Lightcraft Technology, and I'm just going to talk to Eliot for a minute while we're waiting to get the demo going. So, Eliot, tell us about Lightcraft.
All right. Lightcraft started quite a while ago, and it was actually in the mid 2000s. And my background was originally robotics, and so I originally designed I wrote the original iRobot Roomba, and so I had finished shipping that, and I got interested in visual effects and movie making and storytelling, and sat down, thought, I should learn this, and did about 2 shots, and said, how does anyone ever make a movie? This is the hardest thing ever, and it was shocking in a way to see the difficulty of it, having come out of just been building robots, and I've been using software to build robots that I never thought twice about it. I'm like, okay, I need to do this, put a gear here, and I could do that, and it was shocking to me to do what I thought was going to be the simplest thing, is to put some live action and computer graphics together, was just so shockingly difficult, and that in many ways is the origin of Lightcraft. And I thought, wait a second, how hard could this be?
So, and what you have put together, and I think, Eric, are you ready? All right, so let's bring Erick Geisler from Global Objects, and Eric is also one of the producers of this fabulous 2-day event, so why don't you come up on stage and switch with me. And then these guys are going to talk about a new ultra lightweight
check.
virtual production solution, and then they're going to show you a demo, and we'll have some time for Q&A, all right? So everybody, let's have a big clap for our actual start of the panel.
So I met Eliot 5 years ago.
Yeah, NAB.
Yes, we were NAB, and he was fully immersed in the virtual production world before the whole buzz of anything was happening. And he was solving really complicated problems with lots and lots of technology. Complicated camera tracking issues, how to integrate stuff into productions. And he was doing this like years and years before The Mandalorian ever hit. So we met, and he's like, there's just a lot happening, and I'm not sure what direction we're gonna go in. And we sat down one day and we picked up an iPhone, and I said to him, and he said to me, it has to go here, right? and so that was the start of, and then he confirmed it with a bunch of other colleagues.
It's a fascinating aspect, because in the theme of Lightcraft, and Jet said this, which is what we're going to be doing, is ultra lightweight virtual production. Because I had spent the previous decade on stages much like this one, building large, complicated virtual production systems for a variety of TV shows. Once a Time, Pan Am, etc. And they enabled a whole genre of television, of fantasy and science fiction production, because of the speed of production and tracking. But they were heavy, and I had spent a lot of my life getting road cases from point A to point B, and we were ready for a different approach.
So we're going to show you some Lightcraft. So here we go.
Fantastic.
So Lightcraft is an ultra lightweight virtual production tool, and it runs on an iPhone or an iPad. And go ahead, give them that.
I'll give you a quick background. Again, we were originally founded in 2004, and as you can see, I set out to. The interesting thing is, when I started the company, the original plan was to build a lightweight indie virtual production system, and we missed big time. That's one of the production installations in Brazil. This is a setup over at Zoic in Culver City. This is a telenovela, I think, in Mexico City. So we built, to solve the problem at that point, we had a lot of hardware, and it was heavy. But it worked. We could do this, and some of the shows were shooting for thousands upon thousands of days, and we learned a lot about the needs of a production pipeline. But it's just expensive, and the other key piece is we were doing the front end. We were doing the tracking, the real-time compositing, etc., and we were leaving the back end, the automated post-production, up to the visual effects vendors. And some of them could do that, but it was too much for a smaller crew. And right around then, as Erick said, all these things happened. I had originally rented my first cubicle when I started the company in Boston from Bill Warner, who was that founded Avid and was running a small incubator group. And so he'd known me for a period of time. And around this period of time, I called him up. We were building these heavy systems. And I said, okay, I need help. There's something magical here. I can't figure it out on my own. There's something going on. The fateful April 2019 meeting, you know, all these sorts of things, and the concept of doing this for everyone. And noticing around then the iPhone tracking started to work, and NVIDIA and Omniverse started punching a USD hole through the whole world of transferring 3D from one point to another. And we realized, wait a second, we can automate. We can do the thing that we set out to do and build a really lightweight, fast production pipeline from end to end. But they're different needs. You know, previs and production, you just want to be very, very lightweight as possible, because things are changing, things are moving. You know, we're not doing this shot, we're doing this shot, and you don't want to be schlepping equipment everywhere just to do a turnaround. But post, you need a sledgehammer, and there's just no two ways about it. Those files are huge. So,
Well, you know, one of the problems is, so when you start mixing visual effects and production is like incredibly fast paced, and visual effects is very slow and tedious. And so when you crash those two worlds together, you end up with, you have to come up with systems to keep things fast paced, but also be sure that you're tedious and you're getting all the right stuff. So that is why there's been arguably, you know, some hiccups and bumps in this whole world of virtual production, because you're trying to do something that normally takes a room full of people who are super smart and stay up all night eating Hot Pockets and drinking Red Bull to figure out, and guys who just want to get in and get the shot. And those are the worlds that you're sort of merging. And this is something that Eliot has done pretty well.
That's exactly it. And so what we decided to do is we're going to split the problem, you know, and that's what we built with Jets, and what's one of the things we're going to be showing today. And again, the concept is ultra lightweight virtual production. It's an iOS-based system. You know, we took all of the knowledge and the learning we'd had from a decade on these big shows and these big sets and put it into an app. And it's doing all the neat things we used to do. We can render 3D USDZ files from Blender and Unreal. It's easy to set your live action origins. We'll go through a demo where we show you how to match things. We're doing depth occlusion. You walk around behind things, it works. We handle the data automatically. When you record, you hit cut, all that stuff is transferred over in an automated fashion. And we also have remote operation, because you need to be able to see what's going on in Video Village. So let's go to our little remote operation. And all right, so what we're gonna do, pause and start our little video feed. There we go. All right. Oh, can you see this? Oh, hang on.
Are we?
I am mirroring. You know what? Let me exit out of the PowerPoint.
Yeah, you might think so. There you go.
There we go. All right, and let me restart my video. All right. So, how are we doing, Pat? There we go. So, what we're doing here, and what you're seeing, is everything is actually being rendered real time on the phone. Pat's walking over there. He's tracking. All the tracking is being done inside a phone. We have a fully animated USDZ scene running inside the phone, and this is a preview, right? This is the whole concept of what we're doing here. Is you leave the heavy scenes back in Blender, Unreal, USD, etc., wherever the heavy scenes need to be, and you export a lightweight proxy that can run in the phone. But it all works, you know. Animation works, motion works, and
Cameras being tracked, you get all kinds of different elements that you can start to play with.
And so that's wonderful. But when we started, we really wanted to be able to integrate live action and CG. So, Eric, we have a pilot.
Yeah, sure.
So, what Pat's doing is he's setting a coordinate origin on the chair. So, as you see, it's detecting planes in the scene. This is the UI. Great, you're seeing the UI. Great. And it's going to set an origin on the chair. I think that missed the chair origin. Let's try the.
Missed it.
Let's repick the seat. And what we're using is the onboard sensors on the phone to detect the scene, lock the scene in, and do all these things that are traditionally done in a big virtual production stage. And we're going to set a scene locator to match the 3D to the live action. So now we've locked in the scene locator of the moving seat into that. We're going to switch from our CG scene over to an AI matte, so we can extract Erick from the background of the the scene. And we have Erick flying.
Hey there. Red 5. Going in.
Now, one of the fun things here is that you'll notice an utter absence of a lot of the things that we associate with production. No HDSDI cables, no wires, no nothing. We just brought a portable router, set it up, and fired it up. You can take this entire production workflow in a backpack, laptop, phone, stabilizer, and a router if you're feeling fancy. Occlusion is fully working. We can walk all around, full 3D, full 6-degree freedom tracking. Everything's matched in and locked. And
it knows person really well. So it doesn't know the chair, but it knows the person.
And what you're seeing right now is the matte edge is rough. That's because we're using the real-time AI matting in the phone. And we are actually rebuilding our key as we speak so that we can have one-touch garbage matting and green screen picking. Not done yet, gonna be another week or so. But we should be able to key at least as well in real time as we have traditionally on our other big systems that are used for finishing. Yeah. All right. Well, so this is exciting. So I think we should record a take.
Let's go.
All right. So
Director, what do you want me to do?
all right, Pat. Pat's gonna hit record. You're gonna start back on the ground. No worries. We're gonna reload real quick. We're chasing down an animation bug buried deep within Reality Kit, and we've almost got it. But there we go. All right, so we've triggered the recording. He's moving. Canopy's coming down. All right, you are lifting off. Thunderbirds are go. You're gonna get ready to go save the rebellion. And as we're moving through, we're tracking. Occlusion is working. Everything's flying. All right, you're going to go up and away. X-foils are going to open up, and we are flying. All right, let's go.
All right, there we go.
All right, so that was fun. Well, we're halfway there, because let me go back to our slide.
Now we got to go to post-production.
All right. So we just recorded all this, which is fun and light, fast, and interactive. Well, here comes post. What are we going to do there? And so we actually have two systems, Jet Set and AutoShot. AutoShot does exactly what you think. It's an automated post-production shot creation tool. Runs on the PC and the Mac, and it takes all the camera tracking data we just recorded on the phone, pulls it over a local sync, and lets us drop it into Blender or Unreal very, very quickly. And everything matches up. So there we go. No, it's my slide sync. And it's not quite one-click post, but we're a shot in that direction. And it lets us automate things. So the goal of all this is to not wear out your team just making 2 shots. You want to make a show. And anytime you're dealing with a show, you are looking down the barrel of dozens, if not hundreds of shots, thousands of shots. And automation is going to be what holds you together. And the big production facilities are like, yeah, of course. But as soon as you get it down to a small production team, it's very, very rare for them to have the internal automation workflows to do that. And that's really what we're building this for. We're building this system for a small team to be able to punch way above their weight. If they have talented people, this thing is designed to just do a vicious removal of the repetitive VFX drudge work, file handling, all the things that take up people's time. So, all right. Let's try
So
this out.
you get to focus on the creative stuff, the fun stuff, instead of the heavy lifting.
All right, so this is AutoShot. This is the ugly buttons version. The pretty UI is going to show up in another couple of weeks, but in general,
I have been begging for that.
So, all right, so we have, let's clock in, and what we're going to do is it's going to detect in the client that we have, and we're going to actually click sync, and we're going to pull in. I'm going to choose the day that we're going to sync to. We're going to pull in files. As you can see, it's pulling a lot of files over.
So as long as Jet Set is running on an iOS device, you are on the same network with a laptop, it automatically will pull in your takes. So your takes are now coming in.
So we've just pulled in all of the takes that Pat just shot over in a few seconds. And now we're going to go back into the Blender scene. And we picked, this is our original Blender scene that we're going to match back into. Our system shows us that during the take, we used the Scene Loc pilot, which was the 3D null that we placed onto the pilot's chair. And we're going to use that in the same Blender scene. And we're going to tell it to save and run. And what it's going to do is it's going to take that information and generate a shot. And do in the background, it's going to be extracting the frames and putting all the pieces together.
So it loads your shot. It sets up your environment. It sets up a composite. It sets up your 3D environment. It sets up your keyer. It puts together, go ahead.
All right, and so we have a shot coming in, and I'm going to turn off. I'll explain. We have a viewport compositor going, and I'll look into that later. All right, so I actually got the wrong shot. Hang on.
That doesn't look like that.
That was
That
a
person's
test
a lot
shot.
skinnier than that.
All right, let's. Oh, I got the later shot. I think we were on take 11. All right,
Take a look.
there we go. So I'm going to rerun that. So again, we're going to extract all the files, and what we do is we have the original Blender file, and we're going to create a new blend file that is linked to the original Blender file, but then also includes the information from this particular shot take, an animated camera, an image plane with the shot on it, a material keyer, so we can do green screen work, as well as one of the new pieces that's in Blender more recently, which is the viewport compositor, and which is a really remarkable piece of technology that they're adding to this. And we'll show Unreal a little bit later. But we have the pipelines between Blender and Unreal are actually very, very similar. All right, so we just ran a new shot,
Here we go.
and it's going to load up our new blend file. Oh, there's Eric.
That looks like me.
Yeah, that's
A couple more pounds.
All right, so I'm going to disable our viewport composite for the time being, because we don't need that immediately. But what we have here, I'll zoom in a little bit, and I'm just going to hit play, and we have our shot. So there's Eric. He's flying along. He's getting ready. Pilot's taking off. He's going up in the air. Now you're going to notice something that, hey, our green screen could be a little bit better. So let's fix that. That's your steadiness. There we go.
Yeah.
All right, pull this up. I'm going to pull this up and give ourselves a material view, because in each version we actually include a material keyer, and
So there's an entire compositing pipeline that automatically got generated with the shot.
Put the mic down.
And I'll talk you through it. So,
All right.
so he has got a green screen keying pipeline. He's going to go in there and do a better job of sampling the color, not just the auto one that we had.
There we go.
And he's going to fix it. So now we have a Blender file, fully immersed in 3D, with the shot that we just took. That's running inside of Blender, inside of 3D.
So this is really what I had wanted from the early days of Lightcraft, to minimize the time between when you have an idea and when you can realize it for real, manifest it in a real production environment. And what we spent over the last 4 years is that, the fateful NAB day is understanding the first principles between what happens between idea and a shot, and actually just going back over and over. So this is fun, and the composite is nice, but frequently you will need to have more sophisticated composites than you can have in a material keyer. For example, material keyer, you can't do a blur. Those show up in compositing. So we also have, on every shot, we've built a, now I'm gonna move over here, I'm gonna go pull up the compositing tree. We've built an automated compositing tree that includes all the pieces. Sorry. It's hard to talk and type. There we go. So this is a fully automatically generated compositing network that does a green screen composite, matches it into the background, and I'm going to turn off the original image plane so we don't have confusion.
So if you've ever been a comper working on stuff, this is your first couple of days. You set up your pipeline, you bring in your shot, you put in your basic compositing tree. It's your first day or two with the shot, and this just spits right out of the front.
And so once we have a setup shot, now you'll note that he's not being included. There's a Z-depth compositing key in the Blender's newest viewport compositor. It's not quite there yet, so as soon as it's there. But the key aspect in this is that when you're doing finished compositing, a depth mat, even from the iPhone, isn't quite good enough to get a fine edge on that. So we actually automatically enable Cryptomat, and in both our generation of our files and in the keying process, so that you can actually click and drag and get your Cryptomats. So the goal here, again, is when you're dealing with a 2D, 3D shot, is you would really like to be able to interact with the shots, the 2D side and the 3D side, both in the same environment immediately. And that's really the concept behind that.
Now, the other thing is, do you have, so just the same process that you just saw that runs through Blender also works right now in Unreal Engine. So there's an Unreal version of this that will do the same process. So if you're doing previs or you need to work inside a real-time engine, there's an Unreal Engine version. And there's other things coming in the near future as well, other supports.
All right. I'm going to switch to my PowerPoint slide for a second.
And the other really interesting thing about the pipeline is, well, we'll talk about this. And I know what a lot of you guys are thinking is, when is that going to come to a cinema camera? When are we going to be able to get that same sort of thing on an Airy or on a Red? So we are working on that as well. And with the latest updates that are happening with the Apple Vision hardware, there's a lot more possibilities that are happening for filmmakers doing work inside of virtual environments. So we've already been testing what we're calling the second camera. And if you look over here, what second camera is the iPhone is now sitting on the rails on a camera, and we figured out how to calculate an offset between the iPhone and the lens of the camera. And so what this does then is it puts a virtual production computer on top of your camera. And the same process that you just saw happens exactly the same. The difference is that we run a calibration that looks through both lenses, and it then knows what their offsets are and what the different characteristics of the lenses are. So that will be working in very short order.
And so we'll do an Unreal speed run in the same way we did sort of a Blender speed run. I won't use the same clip, like I'll use a previous clip we did. The Unreal workflow is very similar. We use AutoShot to automatically take in the takes from JetSet, process them into a take, into a shot, and we'll generate a command string that we're just going to copy and paste into Unreal. And that's going to automatically create a level sequence in Unreal, the tracked animated camera, with an animated image plane, the material keyer, and all in a animated level sequence. So, all right, let's try that out.
Here we go.
All right, so I'm going to switch AutoShot over to Unreal version, and show on our take. So we're going to, there we go. Let's change our directory over to our local folder. All right, and change that to North by Northwest. Great. So this is a shot that we did when we were doing a remake, reimagining of North by Northwest. All right, so I'm going to set just a little bit of background. We automatically break down our shots into shooting days, and then AutoShot lets us pick which take from the shooting day we're going to be working with. So we'll work with scene 101, take 17, and tell it to save and run. Okay, so when it gave me a command string, I'm going to go over here and copy and paste that into Unreal. There we go. And it's going to go through, and let's go find our scene locator. There we go. All right, and then click our camera in. There we go. Oh, I forgot. Hang on. I forgot to do something. I forgot to change my scene locator.
Yeah, you got to put the right scene locator in.
All right, back here, and then for this scene, we're using a scene level floor run, so I'm going to type that in.
Yeah, the floor run is the one. Yeah, that was pilot. That was me.
All right, let's try that again. Save and run. Create a command string.
Paste.
Paste that guy in.
Clicking your camera.
Scene. There we go. And let's go find him. And so he is, there we go. Back up a little bit. So we've created inside the Unreal scene. Navigate through Unreal one arm here. There we go. Okay, there we go. So what we have done is Oh, good. We created an animated level sequence in here, and that contains the tracked camera, the animated image plane. And so as I move through sequencer here, you'll see the camera is moving and he's running along. Now, an important aspect is the distance of that image plane is correctly computed. So on the iPhone, we make heavily use of all the sensors. So we're using heavily the LiDAR data from that. And we calculate the correct depth of that image plane, roughly. And so as the person is walking through the scene, they are walking through as a 3D object, a 2.5D object in real time. So you can see him running back and forth. So that's great, but you'll notice that we have an issue, which is that we have a green screen. So let's go over and fix that, because we automatically create a material key here. So we'll create a material instance. And I'll drag that into our plane, our shot folder. All right, and so then we're going to click on that, and we're going to enable a couple of our parameters. Just drag our camera original over there. There we go, and set a key. Great. Okay, love it. Save that. And then we need to apply this newly created material key over to our instance, which is over here. So I'm going to search for our material. There we go. And I'm going to apply our key over here. All right. So now we have a fellow running through a lobby. And I'm going to switch to our camera cuts so we can see that. Lock the camera. All right. So as you can see, now he is running through the lobby and tracked. Now, you may observe that occasionally his feet are piercing the floor, and that is because we are, again, accurately representing the centroid of the body, but depth-wise, his feet could be poking forward or backwards. So if you're on a matte surface, what we would just do is come down, and we'll just delete a couple of these keyframes on our image plane, and I'll move this out to the extents. That's right, it's a long shot, 800 frames. There we go. All right, and so I'll just remove our transform keyframes. And those. And then we're going to go back over to our image plate and adjust him a little bit forward. And there he is. So we can just set him exactly where we want, and then lock our camera. All right, and now, whoops. Lock our camera cuts. All right, and now he is merrily walking through our scene. All right, so that works really well for a matte surface where there are no reflections. But wait, you say, we want to capture something where there are reflections. For that, we actually would approach the problem in two passes. We would actually render out the scene with just the reflections in there, and then composite over it in a more traditional process. So let me go find it on the desktop. There it is. So we did, and I'll just play it back here. So what you see are procedurally generated reflections in the shiny floor and a more traditional composite running on top of them. And all this is done without handwork. You don't have to sit there and do that. Now, the alert among you will notice that, that they're not perfect. So for example, his rear leg is not exactly perfectly reflecting in there. See if I can hit the pause button with my nearsightedness. That's not the pause button. That's right. That's the pause button. But for automated processing, it works pretty well, and you can always hand tweak a per shot basis pretty easily. All right, so let me toggle back to as we continue our speed run. There we go. So basically we have both Blender and Unreal, a high-speed process to do this. And as Eric alluded to, we have up and coming is Jet Set Cine. I'm gonna grab the device off here.
Here we go.
Because most people don't shoot large-scale movies off an iPhone. So we've been working toward this, and we have it working. Still kind of ugly, so it's not a product yet. But what we are doing is we use your own Cine cameras and lenses. We use a little piece of hardware to take real-time video from a Cine camera, an Axoon CMO converter, and put it into the iPhone. We have a separate companion app, which is Jet Set Calibrator. There you go. Which does an optical correlation between the original Cine camera and the iPhone camera. And we don't need calibration boards. We detect natural features in the scene. So if you're around a scene with a lot of stuff, you just sweep the camera back and forth and we can lock it in. So no calibration board needed, no targets on the set. And we use the same auto shot workflow you just saw, with automatic clip detection and matching.
The other thing to note is you'll notice there's a little device on the back of the iPhone. This is a cooler. So what it does when you're using the iPhone for many, many hours, especially at its highest compute value, it gets a little hot. So we've found some off-the-shelf coolers that work really well with it. So this will keep the entire device cool and cold to the touch, especially when you're running higher frame rates, 120 frames a second and beyond. Sometimes you're going to need to do that to get super slow motion shots or other things that you're working on. So that's what the cooler's for.
But it gives me great pleasure to have this after having in my life hauled so many road cases to have a real production system. And so we've done tests to match it to 24 frames a second, 25 frames a second, etc. It works. All right. And so in conclusion, one more thing. So what you're seeing now, this is already on the App Store. So Jet Set Pro, the iPhone version of it, you can go to that QR code, download it, and you can be using exactly what you just saw. Today, yeah. There's a free version of the app, comes with a couple of sets. The tracking works, AutoShot works. AutoShot is a free download on the Lightcraft website. Our site is at lightcraft.pro. And basically, we want this to kick off a lightweight revolution in virtual production.
There you go. Thank you, Eliot. So you guys go to the App Store, download it, play with it, and explore. It's so easy to use. It's so fun, and it's available today, and it works out of the box. There you go. Thanks a lot.